Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're doing something really cool. We're taking the most common, frustrating GCSE science exam mistakes and turning them into your ultimate power strategy. You spent months revising, right? Memorizing those equations, mastering the scientific method, but what happens when the actual way you write your answer completely works against all that knowledge in your head? Well, we're going to decode the examiner's mindset and show you exactly how to stop leaving those easy marks on the table.
Every single year, seriously brilliant, hardworking students lose vital marks. And it's not because they don't know the science. It's literally just because they misinterpret the question on the page or they format their answers in a way that just breaks the examiner's strict grading rules. You might know your biology, chemistry, and physics completely inside out, but if you don't give the examiner exactly what they want to see, you're operating at a massive disadvantage.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're looking at 1. Following exam instructions. 2. Precision in your language. 3. Avoiding contradictions. And 4. Answering the actual question. Let's get into it.
Section 1. Following exam instructions. These are the mechanical mistakes.
Okay, let's talk about the harsh reality of the grading system. Take a look at this student's paper. The prompt clearly asks them to tick 2 boxes to identify what birds compete for. But, maybe in a moment of panic, they tick 3. And here is the kicker. Ticking an extra incorrect box actually cancels out one of their correct answers. No way, right? Even though they correctly identified food and mates, that extra tick meant they walked away with just a single mark. So, the big takeaway here, only tick exactly what is asked. I know it sounds super basic, but it is an absolutely fundamental rule of exam survival. Always read the bold text telling you how many boxes to tick. And hey, if you change your mind mid-exam, don't just scribble a faint little line. Aggressively cross out the mistakes so the examiner knows exactly what your final intended answer is. Never leave them guessing.
And this example brilliantly illustrates the exact same problem, just in a matching question. The student was asked to draw one line from each gas to its test. They correctly matched oxygen, awesome, but then they drew 2 lines originating from carbon dioxide. Because they gave 2 options for a single prompt, it became totally impossible for the examiner to award a mark.
The golden rule here is absolute clarity. As the official examiner notes specify, extra lines cancel out correct ones. Examiners literally aren't allowed to guess your intentions or just nicely pick the right answer out of the 2 you provided. You've got to be decisive.
Just one last mechanical pitfall for this section: sentence completion questions. You're given a box of words and some blank lines. Look at what happened here. The student circled the correct words in the top box, but they didn't write them on the actual lines. They got 0 marks. Why? Because the examiner can't just assume which word you wanted to go into which specific blank space. Always, always write the words out.
Section 2. Precision in your language. Because in science, words really matter.
Let's see how this actually translates to written responses. Check out the highlighted text. The student was asked to name variables to keep constant in an experiment, and they wrote the amount of hydrochloric acid and the amount of metal used. Guys, this is a classic trap that examiners see constantly. To you and me, amount makes perfect sense in conversation, but to a science examiner, it means absolutely nothing.
Amount is just totally ambiguous. Are you talking about the weight of the acid, the space it takes up, how strong it is? Examiners are hunting for precise scientific terms. You need to swap out that vague word for something like concentration when talking about the acid, or mass for the metal, or volume for a liquid. Seriously, train yourself to ban the word amount from your exam vocabulary entirely.
Okay, another language trap is the habit of rewriting the question stem. Look at the highlighted text here. The student spends 4 whole lines explaining that the blocks are made of magnetic materials and the crane has a strong magnet. But that information was literally just handed to them in the prompt. Doing this earns absolutely 0 credit and just burns through your precious exam time.
So remember this, the information, the diagrams, the labels in the prompt, they're all just there to trigger your memory, not to be copied back onto the page. Jump straight into your own knowledge. The examiner already knows what the question says, right? They want to see that you can synthesize that info and push it forward. Don't be a parrot.
Moving on to Section 3, Avoiding Contradictions. This is all about the danger of overwriting.
We've all been there. It is incredibly tempting to look at a blank page with 4 empty lines and feel this weird psychological need to fill every single one of them. You kind of think, well, if I write more, I'm bound to hit the right keywords, right? But you need to stop and ask yourself, is that extra, rambling sentence actually going to cost you the mark you just earned?
Look closely at this answer about why friction causes a student to become negatively charged. The student correctly notes that the friction attracts electrons. Boom. That right there is a solid mark-earning scientific statement. But they just couldn't resist padding their answer, so they tacked on the phrase repels protons.
And here's how that breaks down. Attracts electrons gets you a +1. But because protons are tightly bound in the nucleus and aren't transferred during simple static friction, saying repels protons is incorrect science. It acts as a direct contradiction. It brutally cancels out the correct half of their sentence, leaving them with exactly 0 marks. So once you've made your accurate scientific point, put the pen down.
Section 4. Answering the actual question, because comprehension is absolutely key.
So the exam presents 2 pie charts showing energy resources in 2014 and 2015. This student wrote a massive, detailed paragraph perfectly describing the percentage changes in the charts. They noted coal went from 30% to 22%. They noted gas stayed the same. It is a completely perfect mathematical description, and it scored exactly 0 marks.
Why 0? Because they completely ignored the actual command in the prompt, which was to explain the environmental impacts of those changes. They just described data instead of linking a drop in coal to a reduction in greenhouse gases. This proves exactly why you must follow these steps. Read the command word, actively highlight the prompt before you even start writing, and force your answer to link back to the core question.
The command word explain is the absolute biggest culprit here. When an examiner uses the word explain, they are making a specific demand. They do not want a summary of what is happening. They are demanding the why and the how. You have to provide the underlying scientific reasoning.
Now, here is an example of a highly successful explain answer. The question asks why aluminum window frames do not corrode. The student doesn't just state the descriptive fact that a layer of aluminum oxide forms. Nope, they go the extra mile to actively explain why that layer matters, adding that it protects the underlying metal from water vapor and air. They provided the mechanism, they answered the why.
Okay, let's synthesize our entire power strategy from everything we've covered today. First, respect the mechanical formatting rules. Only tick the right number of boxes and draw single lines. Second, upgrade that vocabulary by swapping out vague words like amount for precise science terms. Third, protect your score by not contradicting yourself. Stop writing once you've answered the prompt. And finally, comprehend the command word so you actually answer the specific question being asked.
You have already put in the agonizingly hard work to learn this complex material. You know this stuff. So when you step into that exam room, the only question left is this. Will you let a simple mechanical trap steal your grade? Or will you use these strategies to make it absolutely impossible for the examiner to give you anything less than full marks? The power is literally in your pen. Keep practicing, stay focused, and go ace that exam.